If your gums bleed when you brush, most people assume they're brushing too hard, or maybe not brushing enough. So they buy a softer toothbrush, they floss more, they switch to a sensitive toothpaste, and the bleeding keeps coming back because they're solving the wrong problem. What I'm about to share with you is something most dentists don't explain in a regular appointment. Not because they're hiding it, but because there simply isn't enough time to go this deep. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand your mouth in a way you never have before. Let me start with something that changed the way I think about oral health entirely. Your mouth is not supposed to be sterile. I know that sounds strange. We've been taught since childhood that bacteria in the mouth is bad. That's why we brush. That's why we use mouthwash. That's why we do everything we can to kill what's in there. But here's what the science actually shows. Your mouth is home to over 700 species of bacteria, and the majority of them are not your enemy. In fact, many of them are actively protecting you. There's a community of microorganisms living in your mouth right now. Researchers call it the oral microbiome. And when that community is balanced, your gums don't bleed. Your breath stays fresh. Your teeth stay strong. The problems start when that balance breaks down. So what breaks it? This is where it gets interesting. The real cause of bleeding gums in most people isn't poor brushing technique. It's a state called dysbiosis, which just means your oral microbiome has tipped out of balance. The harmful bacteria have started to outnumber the beneficial ones. And when that happens, your immune system responds with inflammation. Your gums become red. They swell. They bleed when touched. Not because they're weak, but because your body is fighting a battle you didn't even know was happening. And here's what makes this hard to solve with a toothbrush alone. Toothbrush can remove plaque from surfaces, but it cannot restore a microbial community that's been disrupted. Those are two completely different things. Now, what actually disrupts the oral microbiome in the first place? A few things that are surprisingly common. Antibiotics are one of the biggest ones. Even a single course of antibiotics, taken for something completely unrelated, like a throat infection, can wipe out beneficial oral bacteria and leave a window open for harmful strains to take over. Alcohol-based mouthwash is another one. Most commercial mouthwashes are designed to kill bacteria indiscriminately. The problem is they don't differentiate between the harmful bacteria and the ones that are actually protecting your gums. You rinse, you feel fresh, but you've just removed part of your natural defense. Diet plays a massive role too. Diets high in processed sugar don't just feed bacteria in general. They specifically feed the strains associated with inflammation and gum, disease, and then there's stress. Chronic stress raises cortisol, which suppresses immune function in the gum tissue, which makes you more vulnerable to the exact inflammation that causes bleeding. So if you've been doing everything right, brushing twice a day, flossing, using mouthwash, and your gums still bleed, this is probably why. You've been addressing the surface. The real issue is deeper. Now I want to mention something here, not as a magic fix, but just as something worth knowing about. There's been growing interest in the use of oral probiotics, not the kind you swallow for your gut, but specific strains that are designed to repopulate the mouth with beneficial bacteria. One product that comes up a lot in this conversation is called ProDentim. It contains several strains that have been studied for their role in oral microbiome balance. I'm not going to tell you it'll solve everything, because nothing works the same for everyone. But if you're someone who's tried the conventional approach and keeps hitting a wall, it might be worth looking into. I'll leave a link in the comments if you want to check it out. No pressure at all, just putting it on your radar. Let's get back to what you can actually do starting today. The first thing, and this is free, is to rethink your mouthwash. If you're using an alcohol-based formula every single day, consider switching to an alcohol-free version, or simply cutting back on how often you use it. Giving your oral microbiome space to recover is sometimes more effective than constantly disrupting it. The second thing is to look at what you're eating, not just in terms of sugar, but in terms of diversity. Fermented foods, things like plain yogurt, kimchi, even certain cheeses, contain live cultures that can actually support microbial diversity in the mouth. Small changes in diet can make a surprisingly big difference over time. Third, if you've recently been on antibiotics, give your mouth time to recover. It can take weeks or even months for the oral microbiome to re-establish itself after a course of antibiotics. Being patient with the process and supporting it consciously matters. And here's the thing I really want you to take away from this video. Bleeding gums are a signal. They're your body communicating that something in the environment of your mouth has shifted. And when you understand that signal, when you stop treating it as a hygiene failure and start treating it as an ecosystem problem, you can actually begin to address the root cause. That shift in perspective is worth more than any product I could ever recommend. If this gave you a different way of looking at something you've probably dealt with for years, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to go deeper into oral health topics that most people never talk about, this channel is the place to be.